I watched F1 this morning, and then I went to get coffee with Valencia. Or we got matcha, and then I went
Okay.
to see Alex, and then I was back and I made some food. And I've just been I've been gift shopping for because I'm going back to
Oh,
China, and I
yeah,
need to I have like 50 different relatives I
yeah.
haven't seen in a fat minute. I have to buy like all these like gifts and like all
Mm,
to get and like and it's
yeah.
like the first time that I've visited since I've like been a like a proper not like adult like
Mm,
I went last time but a money earning adult, right? Like before it was like
yeah,
internships. So then I'm like I gotta like buy clothes and like do all this and that and
yeah. I
buy like
see.
stuff for like uncles, aunties, and my cousins have babies now,
Oh
and it's
my
like
God. You have
there's
to
so
get like suitcases of that, like not even one, like it has to be like two or three
yeah.
gifts.
I didn't even think about it. I was telling my mom, I was like,
Yeah,
"Hey, okay, I'm just gonna fly with a backpack, and then I'll just
yeah.
bring like a suitcase back." Like, because I was just thinking about shopping in China
Hmm.
for myself, but then I forgot that I have to like buy things for people.
Yeah,
And she's like,
that's
"Oh, bro,
true.
are you not gonna bring anything back?" I'm like, "Oh, fuck, you're
That's so
right."
sad. I think like, have two, three suitcases just for them, then shop like a shit ton in China. And way you get like some sort of stuff back just
Yeah,
to
yeah. I'll just
flash
bring
you.
stuff back. I'll just give it to everyone, and then like
Yeah,
in
yeah.
China, I'll shop for myself. And
Exactly, exactly. That's good.
yeah.
No, that's
Oh,
good.
and also, I'm going back to Canada with Alex. I think I
Yeah,
texted
you told
you
us.
about it. But yeah,
Did
I
you
think
today? Or
I, I mean, I told you guys a couple days or like last time. I think I just said it more as like, oh,
yeah.
um, I really because he really wants to go skiing. I
Mm.
wanted to ask you guys to go skiing, but like you're crippled or you're traumatized. Rhea
Yeah.
doesn't know how to ski. Nick is not back.
I
uh,
mean, low key, I'm down though. Like, cause I'm
okay,
not
let's
gonna go intense, and I think I'll
yeah. Well,
ski
also
instead of
like
snowboard.
yeah, now that you live in SF, it feels more like it's more of a luxury to be by the mountains. Yes, you
Mm-hmm.
have like Lake Tahoe. You can ski in like you can ski
Yeah.
in Tahoe too, but it's like a 3 hour drive. Sunshine is like an hour drive. You
I
start taking.
know.
Wait, when you go back to Calgary, are you gonna drive that red Ford
Broken car.
Escape?
Oh my
What
God.
the-
I don't like I genuinely don't know if it's drivable. Like that's my issue. Like I will drive it without a heartbeat, but
I
like
don't
I
think
think
it is.
like it got
Yeah.
so bad the last
Can
week
you actually
too.
edit this video and put a picture of your flat tire and your car on the
Oh
on the
yeah,
screen?
that's so funny. Because it's like for those who also I just started randomly recording when you started
Yeah.
talking about China. I mean, it's just random, so obviously I can cut it off. But I like what's it called? Oh yeah, like for those who don't know, like Helen, like oh it was so crazy. She visited Calgary one time and it was her birthday, okay? And I was like, I love
Damn.
acts of service and I love doing stuff for people. So I was like, oh yeah, like I'm so down to drive you to the airport at 8 a.m. And then I go and my car
You're
just
the real one for
fucking
half.
no. I feel so because my car literally broke down. Like literally, it like the bumper fell down and then it like jabbed the tire. So I had a flat tire and the bumper broken at 2 in 1. And it was like it was so crazy because we were in the highway and I had to pull over and I was like, what the heck is going on? And then from then I still like my bumper is still taped up. And like I remember the last week that I was in Calgary, I remember I was driving and it fell again and I was like, but that time I was close to the community
Wait,
so it
when
wasn't
did you
bad.
go back to Calgary? You
Oh,
haven't
no,
been
not
back.
when I get
Oh,
back,
the
like the
last
last
time.
week.
Last
Yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
yeah, it was just crazy because I remember Helen was there. She almost missed her flight, and I was like, literally, my heart was pounding on my chest. I could not breathe. And I was like, no, don't do
You know
something
what's funny
stupid.
too?
Yeah.
Like like I was just talking about this with like Valencia today because we
Mm.
were we were like or yesterday me her and like one of our other friends we were hanging out and then we're out and about and she was like, oh shoot, I gotta go, like a friend of mine just got a flat tire and like they're stranded, I gotta go like pick them up or whatever, right? So then today when we met up, I was like talking about that too, and she was like, yeah, like didn't you get a flat tire?
On
didn't
your
your friend
birthday.
get a flat tire when she was driving you on your birthday to the
Yeah.
airport?
I know,
Yeah,
but that was crazy
iconic
because,
day.
like, yes, flat tire, la la la, that happens. But like the fact that you even made your flight, I was like, God was like
Oh
listening
my
because
god,
that was
it
so
was so
stressful.
dramatic too because that day the customs line was long for no reason. We have never,
Mm.
in all of the times I've ever traveled out of like Calgary Airport, never had a long customs line, but that
Mm,
customs line was long for no reason. And um like I actually missed the timing of my flight. I was like 20 minutes after when it was supposed to be flying out, but because so many people were caught up in the customs line too, they let all like they held back the plane for a little bit longer. But yeah, it was
mhm.
a that was a
That's such a,
eventful birthday.
yeah,
Oh, I
such
turned
a
24 that day.
so crazy. It's okay. Hopefully, yeah, no future birthdays like that
Yeah.
again.
No,
And
like even I mean even my Corolla, right? But like I was thinking if we go back when we go back to Calgary, like if we do go to Banff for the mountains, if like I
mm,
mean like if we need to drive or whatever, we can always just like all rent one big car and then drive
yeah,
together.
yeah, that's
Because I feel
true.
like I mean actually,
Yeah,
but
we'll
yeah, so
figure it because
RAV4, yeah,
yeah,
like
we'll
there's
always have
space,
friends like Hannah and
yeah,
like we'll figure out someone.
yeah.
And like what's it called? Yeah, like I would offer 100%, but for our safety and our like well-being, I don't think my car should
Like
be
I
the sec
learned.
you yeah, you learned that. It yeah. But anyways, yeah, so I guess we'll just get started with today's episode. Also
Mm.
another non-script, just freaking yapping, like which is like fun too. I think that we had a few we do have an idea of where we want the direction of this today's episode to kind of go, but I think, I remember it was so funny. We were texting about it this week, and then Helen was like, okay, stop talking. Let's like wait until
Yeah,
we
yeah.
like
I was like, okay, this is like content. This is for the content. Why are we yapping this away?
exactly, because it was getting so good and deep. But yeah, I think I'll just like start it off. But anyways, I like today was pretty good too, because I think the thing that I've been concerned and thinking about a lot this week, I talked about it for the first time with people in person, like when I was with
Mm.
Camilla and Etienne today, and that I think helped a lot because I definitely needed that. But anyways, I was telling Helen this like this past week and like past couple of weeks, whatever, I've been in a very, very emotional state. Like it's not been the best version of myself at all. I think I've been extremely vulnerable and just so like overwhelmed with like so many like feelings, whether that feeling is like loneliness or like it just everything combined and like sadness or whatever it is, right? And I think like for a long time I was kind of like thinking, where am I feeling this? Like, what's happening? And I think as I'm like, going through the last weeks and whatnot, I've become like more aware of like what's been happening with like this move and like how I've been feeling. I've become a lot more articulate versus like last week where I like just like did not like I didn't know what the core of my issue was coming from. So I think because of that, I was just always confused whenever I talk. I didn't know what I was feeling, how I was feeling it, whatever, right? But anyway, so I think that like I've been more vocal with it recently, but I think that there's like, obviously there's this loneliness that comes whenever you do move post grad and like, you move to a place or even a different country. And I think that for me, I've been feeling it in a very different way, in a very unique way, right? Like because I think that because I don't have like a partner right now, I think that that's been in a way something that I didn't think that I would have an issue with because I haven't in the past, right? But I think now with this move and everything being amplified, I think I was kind of think like, that's been a big portion of like this loneliness I've been feeling because like, how I post and how I talk about with my friends and like, posting on Instagram and whatever, right? Like it is very different from my reality and especially like me being a very social person. Like realistically, I do see my friends here like 2, 3 times a week, like averagely 2 times a week, 3 times if I'm lucky, So, and then also as well, I was telling Helen and even my friends today about how like, I don't have anyone at work that's like within my age range, right? Like the youngest is like 31 and my manager is 40 and like I love my team, but I think that because of that, like that's where I spend the majority of my day. Then I come home and it's like this quietness and it's like, I am someone like I don't know how other people are like, of course, but for me, I'm someone that's so in my head all the time, Like I'm so when I like get so like when I have spent, I mean, I'm good with spending time with myself, but I think because of the added layer of like loneliness and like overwhelming, yeah, just overwhelming loneliness and sadness, I've just been like feeling a lot of things a lot more amplified. And like before, I would just think that like, oh, like maybe I'd find this in like community or find this in like friends and whatever, right? And like, I also like when I was thinking about this, I was like, wait, I fully know that forming community and like all of that will like take a while. Like, I think Helen and I know this well, like living in Calgary for like a long time, it took us a while to like build up our communities. And we know that like we are very patient with that. And I was very aware of that. Like, I know I'm not gonna like come here and like meet people instantly and it's gonna like, click from there and they're gonna be my go-to person. Like I was always aware of that. So I think that like for me, where this lack of feeling was coming from of like loneliness was like not having that day-to-day person to go to, right? And when I was talking about it with like Camille and stuff today, also the portion of like, not having like a roommate. And I kind of wish I did have that. I mean, don't like I love my studio and everything, but I think
Mm,
that's definitely been a factor that's like added to my loneliness because not having like that person to go to day to day, like even like Camilla was saying that like, even if I don't have someone like romantic right now, just having someone there to talk to and like see, like to ground you, right? And
mm,
like I think that's what I've been craving a lot. And I feel like it's just been so amplified that, I don't know. And I like, I thought I could get away with it. And I like was a bit hesitant talking to friends about it because I think that everything that we go through is very unique. Like I won't know how it feels like to move post grad and be in a relationship but be long distance or like move
mm,
post grad and be in a relationship but still feel lonely. Like I won't know that end, right? So I
yeah.
think a part of me was afraid to like kind of vocalize it with people, like anyone, because I like didn't know if like I just didn't want my feelings to be minimized, no matter how much like I love everyone. I was just scared that like you subconsciously that people would be like, oh no, but you have so many friends, or but you have like this person,
Mm,
or like, oh no, your team's great. I'm like, yes, like those are true, but I think like I said, I only see friends 2 times a week, and like on a day-to-day best basis I'm just like alone so much that like all of it kind of like added up. And I think also it's just because like how things have been getting harder. Like for example, like
mm,
the last week and a half I've been really stressed because of work. And like today when I was like I hung out with my friends and then I was like walking back home and I was fine in the morning, but then when I was walking, that feeling came like I started getting stressed about work. And that
mm,
feeling of stress and anxiety, for me, it's a very familiar feeling when I think about loneliness. So then I started getting like, even though my initial feeling was like, oh, I'm like feeling very stressed and anxious and like, very overwhelmed because of work, in a way, like my body couldn't differentiate work and like also like my other dilemmas that are going through life. I think it just like, when you're like sad about one thing, it just trickles down into like a jumble effects of like so many other things, right? So I
mm,
think just because of like work stress added on to that right now, I've been in a very like like versatile state where I'm kind of like like and I think like
yeah.
days are fine, but then like I remember last night when I was like working late and then like I just like was like literally just laying in my bed for like 2 hours and I was just like sad, like what the fuck, but that's like I know I'm not alone. Like I know to the core, like, if I were to like like of course my existence does matter, like with friends, with family. It's just like, I don't know, I think just like there's just been like this big overwhelming feeling that I've just been navigating. So yeah, that's like
Mm.
kind of where I have been. And yeah, I mean you can like tangent on from here too, but that's part of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think from what you said, one big part actually, I think like like the idea of like not wanting to feel like minimized by like because either on social media it seems a certain way or like you do have these like network and connection. And I think a lot of the times when you approach like trying to feel heard about it, it's like in terms of frequency, right? Like you're talking about, okay, realistically I only see them maybe 2 to 3 times a week, and like a lot of the other times you're lonely. And I was actually reflecting on that because I think if I just hear that, like in terms of frequency of seeing people or feel like talking to friends or whatever, it actually, like for a lot of people that could be a very like normal frequency, or it doesn't sound that bad or anything like that. But I actually think it's more so like not just like the frequency and how often you see them, or like what your day-to-day objectively looks like. Is just truly like the feeling of like having someone there, right? Like you could very much well like live a similar life if you have like see friends only two times or 3 times
Mm,
a week, and you spend most of your time like after work alone. You don't have a roommate. But if you feel like you do have that default person to go to, or if you feel like you're fulfilled in that friendship, or if you feel like you're grounded in the base that you have, the safety net that you have, that actually might not be like a problem at all, right? Like
mm,
rather than feeling like you need to fill every single second of your time with like someone there. I think like the bigger thing is like you move to this new place, and it's like when you're in Calgary, you might have not ever felt this way, right? Even though when you're home, you might spend most of your time at like in your room. You might not
yeah.
like interact with your parents or your sister very often on a day to day basis, but you would never feel that way even if you only see your friends like twice a week or something like that,
Hmm.
or even once a week, right? Like I think there were a lot of times during our university time or like COVID where we saw people way less, but I think when you're home, it feels like okay, everyone is there. Like when you need to reach out or when you need to feel like there's someone there. It's there. There's that safety net there. Whereas now that you moved out, obviously you still have the friends there, and you still have like it's like friends outside and like
Hmm.
family that you can reach by phone, but it's less of a like, okay, like I'm sad, I'll just like, walk, like, it's less of a very
Yeah.
set like safety net that you can fall back on. And even if the people that you can fall back on are very trustworthy and like, reliant, like, or reliable, like,
Yeah.
Camilla and like,
Hmm.
Tiana, all of them, even though they're very like reliable people and like
Yeah.
good friends to yours, you, like you said before, right, they also have their own life, and it's like
Hmm.
it's hard to feel like, okay, this is like norm. And I think it's actually like, yeah, there's probably like not, you don't have that feeling of norm or that safety net that makes you feel grounded. That also, it's like a weird in between state, because when you're not with people you feel lonely, obviously, but then like, but because you don't have that safety net to build out that, like, like you don't really have a safe base for you to build out
Yeah.
a state where you can feel okay with being alone too. So it's like a, okay, like when you're not with people you feel alone, which is like obviously super valid. And then like to get to the point where you don't feel alone when you're not with people, you kind of also need already a good
Hmm.
base to build that up with. And it's like a weird in between of like neither of those are true currently.
Yeah,
I think,
exactly.
yeah, I think that's probably a like a big part of like why, yeah, I think when we talked about this like early in the week, right? Like I feel like when I think about it just in terms of frequency wise, right? Like, 'cause that's how I feel too. Like when I'm here, like, I see friends like twice a week at most, like during the weekends, during the weekdays, I'm
Hmm.
just like doing my thing and work. But I think in the beginning when I first moved, obviously probably did feel different, but like more and more now, I do know like the fortunate part is like, I have my partner here, right? Like that's one default, and that's one thing that you were talking about. So in the times where I feel like, oh, I miss having a big group of people or a big community, but on the other side, like during the day to day, like, when I'm alone, I feel like there's still somewhat of a safety net that I know, like, okay, I have my partner
Hmm.
who's here, that care, like that is like that baseline of like, that allows me to feel okay with being alone a lot of the time. So I do think
Hmm.
it's like a, we're in like different like timings of our move, and
Hmm.
we're also like at different, like we experience almost like polar opposites of like the loneliness feeling. And um
Hmm.
where like um we might have one thing, and then like we realize how big that other thing it matters to us. Like you
Yeah.
might feel like you have a sense of community and group of people that you can go to, but you realize like how important having like even one default person could be. And then on the other side, like, I have one
Exactly.
default person, but like I realize, okay, like, that fulfills a lot, but there's also a part that's like missing from having a bigger group of people, right? Or like big
Hmm. For sure.
community.
Yeah, I think what you said about safety net, that's a good one too, because I remember I was talking with one of my friends who just moved in with her boyfriend like a couple months ago,
Mm,
who's like living in van and stuff, right? And then she was saying, like I was saying that, when we were talking about this, I kind of mentioned that like, you have like it's nice that you have your boyfriend here because like, you can like just trial and error with your friends because like for her she has no like friends, like, she's also I
mm,
guess in another opposite end, right? And then
mm,
after I was literally like, yeah, like, what, trial and error with your like people, like, let's say you hang out, you meet like the worst person ever. It's okay. Like literally, it's gonna be so irrelevant because, you can fall back on the safety net. Like while like for me, I don't think I have the like, yes, I have the desire to make friends and community, but I think when I like looked at the root cause, I was like, wait, I don't think that's like a big thing dictating my loneliness right now. Like
mm,
I thought it was. I was like, okay, maybe I'm just lacking in like having a like a friend I see more often or like a new friend or whatever. And even though, I have been doing that and I have been making new friends and community and like trying to build that up, I feel like when I fully figured out myself more of why these emotions are coming, I'm like, wait, I don't think this was like my root cause of like, because I still felt the exact same way kind of. And I don't know, like I've just been in so many different tangents with this. Like one of the things was I remember I had like one of my friends too, who I met a couple months ago, he was telling me how like I forgot what it was, but I was just saying how like last year I was going through like a hard time, and then he mentioned how like he wouldn't expect someone like me to go through a hard time because I think externally I put on a different front, and I think that just may be similar to personalities like us, who are very extroverted and like people see us as a very social person, right? So I think even when the past couple of weeks I have been struggling a lot, like emotionally and like, really bad mentally, I realized like, wait, I don't think like any of my friends know this, because I don't think that the front that I do put up, or when I
Mm,
do have like times where I'm like, oh, but like, I'm having a bad day, I'll just post instant stuff on my Instagram to like, whatever, right? And I think
mm,
that that's like something that I'm like, okay, you know what? Like I realize like my friends don't know that I've been struggling because the way that yeah, like they do see like how I just am externally is very different. So that's why it was really good that I opened up to you and even like my
mm.
friends like today, like because I think that that was very much needed. And it's very nice to hear you guys like also like validate like what I've been feeling, because I think that like every all one of us, we go through like very unique experiences. Like it's so hard to like we can only go through like we can only relate as much as we can, but I think the
Mm.
rest is just like support and like being there for one another. So I think that's like really good. And I think one thing I was also like I told you and like Camilla and Etienne, it was just about like okay, like yes, one part of it is like maybe not having a partner in this stage of your life or like that go-to person. But it's like, okay, if I seek a partner right now, like, like that they genuinely have to, like, there's that factor of they can also be detrimental to my life. It
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
just automatically mean like even with a roommate, because even like
yeah, yeah,
Camilla, she was like,
exactly.
oh, like one option could be like, what if you like sublet your place and like find something alternative and like get a place where you feel like that loneliness doesn't drive more emotions and stuff, right? And I'm like, wait, you're right. But then we also talked about wait, like roommates are a gamble, right? Like such as like
Yeah,
a partner, because you
yeah,
can. It's just so like like I think you talk about this quite a bit about how like after work you get like very exhausted. And for me it's only been like tomorrow I think it's like near the end of one phase, so I'm excited to like not be as stressed about work. But I think
mm,
like after work and like these activities you like are drained and tired, and you're very aware of where and who you spend it with, because like there's like a
yeah,
high chance of like the majority of people that you do meet might not be compatible with you at all, right? And like they
mm.
can bring you down in a lot of ways. So I think it's like frick, I guess at this point in time, I
Yeah,
think I just have to like stay and just be lonely. And I think that's fine. But at least I've accepted that, like at least I'm not trying to find like a band-aid solution and
yeah,
figure out like, yes, because I can, like, we can all find partners. Like that's not fundamentally hard or challenging, but I think it's like to what extent are they adding quality to your life? Like they
yeah,
can
yeah,
genuinely like take years back of like all the stuff that you've like worked hard for, of like, building your character and etc.
yeah,
And I was even telling Camilla too of how like I can go through that same cycle again where I'm like allowing someone to come into my life, and then but then it's gonna
mhm.
be like so daunting, so mentally, if I'm kind of tricking myself and not fully liking them for them. Like, just like so many factors
Yeah,
playing
yeah,
into
yeah. It
it.
makes it a lot more complicated. Yeah,
Yeah. So it's like, I think I just accepted that like fuck.
yeah,
It's okay. It's good that it led to this conclusion, because
yeah.
I think it
Like
has to.
you needed to like think through that whole like scenario in order for it to be
Yeah.
something that's like, yeah. I was actually like talking about this kind of with like I was talking, yeah. People that listen to this are gonna think that I only have one friend or like one person I talk to, which is Alex. But like I was actually kind of talking about a similar topic, right? Like a little bit about like how you're feeling right now, and then um, just like on like in general, because I was like, oh, it's kind of funny because like in a way, I mean, in a way, like I don't know if I talked about it in the last or episode that we did, but like when I talked about moving, right? Like the reason why I wanted to move was like to essentially be like in the same spot as you are right now, and then because I know that you're there and I know that like we have
Mm,
like friends there, and I'm like, okay, I'm feeling lonely here, and there's the only way to guarantee have feeling that like sense of connection is moving to Bay Area, right? And then like it's funny because every single scenario you were mentioning that you feel lonely in, I'm getting a drift of oh, okay, like maybe like he was right when we first talked about this topic, because he was like like essentially told me it's like, okay, if it's purely for the kind of the sake of like fulfilling that loneliness or community, you have to be put yourself in a situation where it's guaranteed that
mm,
because or else you're going to keep living your life the way that you're currently living, aka like after work I'm gonna be tired. I want to be spend time being by myself. That's been my default, right? Like the only way to guarantee that it's like if I move right into SF, because let's say if I live in South Bay and I only drive up during the weekend, I'm gonna feel like an outsider to a lot of like it doesn't matter if I'm an outsider to like one community, but I might feel like an outsider to like your guys' community, like
mm,
like as in like you and like even like Camilla Etienne or like people like Calgary friends or whatever, right? Like even that community, I could feel like an outsider too, because realistically, there is a community of like you guys who live in that area in SF, right?
Yeah.
Like so, and then even if I live in SF, like and I live in a neighborhood that's kind of farther away, right? Like that's still kind of the same idea. And then like he was like, yeah, the only way that I not that like he would be okay, but like the only way that logically he thinks that I could get the most out of it is like he's like, okay, find a place to sublet with or find a place to where
Live
you
with.
will live with Fair and then you guys will be roommates. So then you're like guaranteed that you have like that one source of
Yeah.
connection. But
I think for
um
both of us equally, we need to do that for like for
yeah.
I
Yeah,
think
I mean,
both
yeah,
of our
it
conclusion.
was like yeah, it's like funny because all those conclusions like come to a lot of the things that you feel, right? Like,
Yeah.
you are like, from my perspective or from anyone else's like outside perspective, like when you were saying that you didn't want to feel like it's like underplayed in terms of like what kind of loneliness or feeling that you're going through, like from the outside standpoint or from an objective standpoint, you can say, okay, now you're in the city that you wanted to be. Now you're living in an area where you're close to people that now you're like in your 20s and this and that and like
Hmm.
whatever, you should feel these things. Like you should not like no longer feel this way, right? Because these like objective things are checked off. But yeah, I mean, I think it does show that like it is. I also do think it's more internal. I do think like
Hmm.
there's obviously active things that you can do, like like oh go out XYZ. There's active things that you can do, but I like we were saying, like even the conclusion that you got to, like I think everything is internal, because even if you do the thing that you think might logically you know put a band-aid on your situation right now, that's not the right thing. Because okay, like yes, go find a partner, then that you're in a state of vulnerability and loneliness. Finding a partner, if that person could be not the right person for you, but because
Yeah.
you are in a state of vulnerability, you might want to be attached to that person and build a codependency. And then like if it's not the right person, then it gets dangerous. Or even if it is the right person, that sense of codependency could drive them away. Or like there's so
Hmm.
many like factors where it goes back to like it's like at the end of the day, it's like a cliche, but like you kind of have to feel like a whole in order for you to feel like you can find someone else who is a whole too. Or else I think it gets like somewhat dangerous, even like with a roommate too, with anyone. Like you're taking a chance, and you're also like because the whole premise of like finding that one person is like you have to put yourself in a very vulnerable state with that
Yeah.
person, right? Like where you can rely on them and you can depend on them. And um like doing that when you are inherently having some like question, or when you're not in like a really like stable state in terms of your life, like
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
just like mentally or whatever, just like your current situation, like jumping into something will like could always have like its risks, right? Not saying you can't do that like at any
Yeah.
point in your life, but it's just like it's gonna have risks. And
Hmm.
like I think like so yeah, I think your conclusion that you got to like that you mentioned earlier regarding like at least now like why you feel this way, you accepted it, you communicated with your friends, and like you no longer feel like okay, it's something that like it can't be understood, or like you shouldn't feel this way. Like recognizing that feeling, that emotion, like
Hmm.
is already a big step. And then like as you settle in, I think with some more time, I feel like um things will feel more like right, or feel more okay.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
fall into place too. And like even like,
Yeah.
there's always like the grass is always greener too. Like even with work, it's like, there's always like, oh, I can like go in an environment that is more younger, but then there's always a sacrifice of like fuck, like, maybe you have a shitty team or like shitty
Yeah,
environment
like what
and you
you're
like hate your
doing.
life. So it's like, and I think like a lot of the situations too, like every one of my friends who are moved out or have gone through that, they've all had like a partner before. Like it's not like they, like so for me, it'd be like a completely different situation where it's like because they had that security of like a relationship before, that's why
Mm.
like, it's a lot like they know that they like I'm assuming that they know they like that person for them and not because they're like lonely. Well, like
Yeah.
sometimes I'm like,
I mean,
wait, fuck, like
I'm not gonna lie, like I feel like we talked about this. I don't know if okay, I mean, obviously, I'm not gonna say any names, but like, I feel like we were talking about this when we were at the beach, right? I don't know if you
oh,
remember. Okay, well, I'll talk more, but then you'll probably
Okay,
remember
okay.
when we're at the beach, like watching the sunset, we're
Yeah.
talking about this, and like a lot of the more picture perfect couple, like not like picture
Oh,
perfect couples, but
yes.
I think a lot of people are only with other people because they're like they can't stand being alone, and that
Hmm.
makes you compromise with partners that you might not like truly love the most, and that makes you do things in a relationship that is not the best, and like I think like there's also that danger, right? Like even without needing to move, I think while you are
Mm.
like where we grew up and everything, like I think there's actually like maybe more couples that that are just like together because they're, I mean, probably not that like personally close to
Yeah.
you, because I think like anyone that's close to you or good friends with you, like you
Yeah.
most likely they're like pretty good people, obviously, and like they're not gonna be in those situations, but um yeah, I mean, like that's the danger, right? Like if you're only
Hmm.
in a relationship, you only stay in a relationship because you you feel lonely, right? And I
Yeah.
think actually when you were telling me the story about your friend in Vancouver, I also had like another thought, like in a way that's like I mean like me myself or like myself too, right? Like I have a partner here, but one of the biggest things that like worried me and still somewhat worry me a little bit is like, yes, like it's great that I have a fallback, but like as you know too, when life gets hard or when
Mm.
things are like when things are hard, you're gonna go with what you're comfortable with, and then
Yeah.
if the whole time that you're spending in a new city is with one person or like your partner that you've known or whatever, like that can like hinder your ability to see, like
Hmm.
to grow the way that you want to when you're moving, right? So it's like
Exactly.
somewhat of a double-edged sword. Like I think I see that
Yeah.
too from like my other friends' stories, where like I have
Hmm.
a friend that like lived in Vancouver, lived in Austin, like moved somewhere else now, and like he was always with his girlfriend through his moves, and then like when like he moved to
Yeah.
Vancouver, when he moved to, or not like, I mean, yeah, for most of the time, like, he was always with his girlfriend, but then that made it so that, like, when we all became friends, he was like, yeah, I actually haven't made that many new friends in my
Hmm.
20s. It's like, whenever I make any big moves, like, I just spent like 90% of my time with my partner, right? Like, it's comfortable, it's easy, like, you're gonna click with them, but that also meant like he spent like a year or two at a new city, but didn't make good
Hmm.
solid like connections, and there's a lot that he probably missed out there, that he might not have if he was pushed to not be so like comfortable in that relationship. So I
Hmm.
mean, I think like obviously with everything like there's like pros and cons, but
Hmm. Another thing I was gonna say too is like that fear of like maybe that the only friends you do make is like they see you as an extension of your boyfriend, because
yeah, yeah,
they're
like
your
you meet
friends
them
with
through
him.
your like
Yeah,
side. Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
Yeah, because like for both you and her, like the boyfriends, like that's like their home city. So
Mm,
like that is like a lot of the people that you are going to meet is gonna be like, oh hey, like they're like this is my girlfriend, like that's how they're gonna introduce you,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So it's like, yeah, no,
yeah.
I do like I did think about that too when she was like mentioning. I was like, oh, that is like definitely a concern too sometimes that I know people get like you mentioned a double-edged sword that while you think that's good and like there is that security in a sense, but it's also like are you able to grow, or like for someone that people that do want to grow, I think that's something that is going to keep lingering in the back of their mind for a while.
Yeah, and it's like somewhat scary too, right? Like,
Hmm.
a partner is great and it's a default, but most of the time, like your girlfriend, boyfriend, like, might not end up being your like wife or husband, like your forever
Hmm.
person, right? So you move to a new city, you spend all that time and like they become your default person, you become dependent on them. That city becomes synonymous with that person. And then
Hmm.
what if your relationship goes like, you have conflict, you end up breaking up, or like, things go hard, then like it becomes like, oh, okay, like is your attachment with the city, with your life and everything that you
Hmm.
built there is tied to that person, and like you're gonna almost like it makes you lose a sense of agency to like make decisions and live life the way that you want to, right? So yeah, I mean, I think like obviously like there's like a lot of pros to having someone like like, especially if
Yeah.
you're in a good healthy relationship, there's a lot of pros to it, but um with anything about like becoming vulnerable and dependent and like,
Hmm.
relying on people, like there's always like that equal contrast of like what if XYZ happened. But I do think, like, for example, for you, I think like it's less of a big thing to like really amplify, because I think for you, you've always like leaned on the opposite end of like you never want to depend on anyone. Like, you never want
Yeah.
to feel this way because of all these things, right? So it doesn't make
Yeah.
sense to like, hyperfixate on this. But I do know, like, for a lot of other people, like that's a lot of like that's your default, right? Like, you
Hmm.
feel only, you grab onto something, you get into it. But
Yeah.
also, like, you say you've been watching like How I Met Your Mother, right? I think,
Oh yeah, I did.
yeah,
Yeah.
I forgot what they call it, but it's like, you do hyper correction. Like, I don't
Yes,
know if it's when
hypercorrect.
like Barney like dated Patrice after like
Yeah.
Robin, and she was someone that's completely different. Yeah, there's that
Hmm.
fear, right? Like,
For
because you have
sure.
been so hyper dependent. Like, I also don't want to see you, or like your friends, everyone probably don't want to see you like end up feeling like, okay, I've been so this way, now I gotta go the exact like opposite way, right? Like,
Hmm.
cause
To like overcompensate that
yeah,
hyper independence, right? But I
yeah,
think like yeah, for me to like for anyone to be healthy, you always have to be in the middle, like you can
yeah,
never
exactly.
be on one extreme end. So I don't know. I feel like we're both just like like I don't know. Sometimes I'm like, man, I used to think that like getting a job and all of that was hard. And while that is hard, like these
And then
feelings are
like
just
life.
so much worse. Like
No,
fuck,
but
like
you know
tell
what's funny though? Like,
yeah,
I went out for dinner with like another friend. Like, she's an older like
yeah,
Chinese friend.
yeah.
Um, but like, yeah, she's older and she's obviously have more life experience, but she's a very attractive single woman in her like 30s, like very like good looking, very like, so like she has no problem in her love life, obviously, but like she has her moments of like boy craziness or whatever with like her
Mm.
ex. And like, I met her at a time when she was going through a really bad breakup, and then like she lived in my apartment for a while, right? But so we were talking through that, and she was like really like down bad and like letting that really impact her life. And then she got like a bad performance review in one of her cycles when she was like at work, and then she locked in. She's like the fuck. I didn't like move my life like from China and like get my master's, get my MBA, like, move
Yeah.
like by myself to this new city just to be sitting around here being sad over a boy. And then she
Yeah.
locked the fuck in, and then she started doing well at work. And then like, and then like the
The
boy
cycle.
stuff kind of came back. And then like she had a whole visa issue with her like H1B. And then it kind of like knocked her back into reality again, and she locked the fuck in again. She's like,
That's so
yeah, like,
funny.
you're always like, it's like, well, I mean, it's like a, obviously, like, it doesn't make the problem less like impactful or severe, but it is a little bit of like a privilege and a luxury for us to like, be, for you to have gotten the job that you wanted, to
Hmm.
have gone like, have moved to this city that you wanted, and then experience the struggles that comes with that, right? Like, that's also like a gift in itself,
Hmm.
like, because in order to feel the struggle, you feel the prerequisite is that you got to like move out and you got to like
Yeah.
build your life by yourself, which is what you always wanted. And it's
Hmm.
just a part of the struggle now. And like with jobs too, right? Like,
Yeah.
whenever work gets hard, or for anybody, or like, the memes where it's like, oh, when you have to go to work at the job,
That you
at the
prayed.
job that you prayed so hard to get.
Yeah.
And it's like,
100%.
yeah, so.
Yeah, I think this kind of wait, that's so funny. The friend, I hope she's okay now. But anyways, I think this is a good tangent because I was talking about this with you that this is where we kind of cut off a bit,
Mm,
but I think that hopefully this part doesn't go too long because I don't want the like I don't know like for it to go like because I think we just have so much to say about it. But
yeah.
anyways, I think that when I was going through this whole like
Mm.
tangent of like thoughts, this is so funny after I because I also explained it to Camilla and she's like, "Girl, you need a roommate ASAP. Like, stop this. Like, you can't. No more thinking." And I was like, "No, you're right." But anyways, I feel like during this time of like, loneliness that I feel, you feel, we all feel, was like I think that why I've been very vulnerable the past couple of months is because, and even like I think I started last year too, where I have feel like I have been way more of an empathetic person. I think I always was pretty empathetic, but I think
Mm.
that nowadays I feel so much more connected to my family and like my parents in particular because I feel like everything that I'm going through, I'm like only feeling like 5 to 10% of what they felt. Like not even, like I can't, like when I was going through this whole loneliness time, right? All majority of the time, what I thought about, I guess half the time, was just like, how did my parents do it? Like, how the fuck did they do
Mm,
this shit? Like, you're away from like your family, like your family, like your parents, your like siblings, your like everyone, right? And then like you're here, you are struggling to make ends meet, you're working odd jobs, you're like, it's a completely different culture. You don't speak the same language, you look different, like you eat different, everything is like so hard, and then I think about me and like us, and I'm like, fuck, bro, I just moved like a 2.5 hour plane right away, and like SF is nothing of a difference to Calgary. Like, bro, it's the same culture. I don't like, we're like at a time where it's definitely like very much more multicultural and like much more accepting, and like, there's social media and like connecting with people, talking to people, getting updates, and like I think that why I've been feeling things so deeply is because over the last year or two, like even when I was like going through my immigration problems last year with like the New York thing and the how that job didn't work out, I remember when I had like a lot of crash outs, and I remember telling my mom like, I like have so much respect for you guys immigrating, because now I get to experience like even a tiny fraction of how hard it is. While like, I'm fully aware like they're at a much more harder scale, but like even feeling a fraction of what they feel, I
mhm,
feel so humbled and so much more appreciative and like grateful of like everything going on in my life. But I think especially last year is when that kind of worm started opening up. And I think even with these last couple of months with immigration, stuff going on again, and then even this
mhm,
move and like loneliness and like, I'm even thinking about it like, holy shit, with friend wise, like I have people who I've known since high school, I have people I talk to like you on a much more day-to-day level. And then I still feel so alone. And I'm like, how the hell did my parents do it? Like I think that
mhm,
loneliness was like something that like I have seen my parents struggle with so many times, because they've had to create that base so many times, right? Like whether that be like when we first immigrated to Toronto, but then Montreal. But in my opinion, I think like seeing it firsthand, I think their biggest loneliness was when they went to Calgary and like immigrated to Calgary or like moved, because for me I think that's when they felt a lot more of a physical isolation, while like in Montreal and Toronto we were more, living in like
yes,
one bedroom apartments with like other people in the same building, and like, at least we had some sort of community. But I still know they were very lonely. But I think that that's why for a long time I resented Calgary, because I think that I got to see my parents really deal with the aftermath of those feelings, and like seeing how I feel now and how that's been. I'm like, yo, like I don't know how you didn't crash out even more, like I'm like
mhm,
barely getting like, sometimes like I have like such a deep overwhelming feeling of just like loneliness where I'm not able to do anything, and I just like sit and lay in my bed, and I'm just like so sad, and I just can't get up. And then I'm like, how did my parents even function on a day-to-day level, work, support us, when I know that they were feeling that for so long and struggling with that. And like, yeah, it took me a while to definitely like, talk about it without getting like, emotional or whatnot. But I think that's been like a big thing for me. And when I was talking about it with you, I think you also related as well. So you can kind of talk about it a bit.
yeah, yeah. I think it's like, well, yeah. When we were texting about this, I think what, especially whenever I went through any slight hurdles in my adulting life, right? Like when we moved, right? Like we had to, there. I mean, like when you do your tax for the first time,
Mhm.
it's gonna be freaking annoying. Like doing your American taxes, when you have to get your SSN, when you have to get your bank set up because you had no you don't have any credits. When I was like struggling with buying a car with no
Mhm.
credit, or finding apartments, etc., etc. When all the stuff about the actual physical aspect of integrating into like a new place felt so hard. And a lot of the times that I think about, oh, I from our move was from like Canada to the United States of America within the same continent, where we speak the same language, where we have connections and like friends and people. Even yes, like even if I came to Austin with no like connection, a lot of my other friends had moved here for work, had no like previous people here too. And it's like at the end of the day, it's still like a very small thing. And then I think about like just like language barrier wise, like when my family
Mhm.
moved, um like how it must have felt like with like not knowing anything, not knowing the language at all, having to um work every day, like 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day to support your family and like, do all of that. And, I'm sure from their perspective, it felt like you were too busy to even feel lonely or even
Mhm.
recognize or like, confront those feelings. So I do think that like even the fact that we have time to like recognize those feelings and not have to
Mhm.
like shove them down and bottle it up because like being afraid of the consequence of feeling those feelings out, right? Like I'm sure from our parents' perspective, and many other like similar like immigrant households, like the parents a lot of the times like parents are not perfect parents as well, but that's not because of like they're not trying to be, right? Like
Mhm.
I think when you're going through all of that and like the next day you're still expected to wake up, go to work, when you like in the morning you're still expected to send your kid to school, prep their lunch, and then go to work and then come home, and you come home and you have to do the laundry, you have to like wash your dishes, and then you have to put your kids to bed, and then your day starts again. Like you almost don't even have time to feel lonely, right? Because your days are so like consumed by taking care of like what your immediate needs are, and then like that doesn't mean they don't feel it. If anything, like I agree, like they probably feel it even more. Like it's even
Mhm.
harder. But I think not having any time to like face those feelings, recognize what they are, and like process them, like makes it a lot harder and like a lot more burdensome, and like really has a much higher like a lot bigger of an impact to the person and like how they feel throughout time. So I think like yeah, it's crazy for me to like even think about how they did it. Like I'm sure you feel the same way, because I would not move to a country where I don't speak the language. Like,
Mhm.
right now, right? Like, there is very little things that can incentivize me to do any crazy moves like that, or move across a continent to a place where you don't have any family, friends, or any network, right? And I think
Yeah.
that's like insane. And this is somewhat of a tangent, but I was actually
It's okay.
thinking about this for the podcast. Still on the like same topic of immigration, right? So I always thought about like, okay, why my parents moved? Like, was it worth it, or like, was the immigration worth it? Because I'm sure like you too, and like I feel like we've talked about similar stuff, right? Like
Yeah.
they gave up a lot in order to for us to have that, and I think a lot of that is like my drive to at least like do the best of what I can with the life that I'm given, because like there was no net gain for our parents if
Mhm.
like for them independently as an individual, right? Like they sacrificed like 20, 30 years of their lives working in a new country. Like um they're not like friends, like all the things that we think about in terms of our own personal satisfaction in life, like community, friends, family, they're like it's a net negative for them in all
Yeah.
of those three categories. Career, like net negative, like 9 out of 10 times, like when you're an immigrant that
Yeah.
is coming to a country where you don't speak the language, you're getting like levels below what you would have gotten in your home country, right? And like
Yeah.
it, and like even wealth, right? Like financial means and wealth, yes, like objectively speaking, like if you convert the money to like the same currency, yeah, your parents or like my parents or whatever probably has more money than they would when they're in that country, but in
Mhm.
terms of
Yeah.
spending power wise, right, it's way lower. So if nothing of their outcome of this like immigration process is like a net positive, like the only source of like positive gain is through their kids, right? Which
Yeah.
is like our lives and what it means. And like at least I've always thought about like and I'm sure you feel the same with like seeing your family back home in Bangladesh too, and like people that are in similar age as you, cousins or whatnot. Like I think I had a way easier life growing up
Mhm.
in Canada than I would have ever had when if I was in China. And easy not in the sense of like actually like day to day how easy it is, but I would have had to work like 100 times harder than I had to work, which I already felt like I worked the hardest I can
Mhm.
in order to even get to a similar place to where I am right now. So it's like the abundance of opportunity and access is a way. It's like that is the thing that they moved to Canada for, right? Or like
Yeah.
most immigrant families came here for, right? So I think that's like yeah, I mean yeah, I think that's like the biggest driver for like I think now that things are like better, like I think everything that I do is like for maximizing personal potential, XYZ, XYZ. But I think like from the start, like the day one motivation has always been like, okay, why do I even care to like maximize like personal potential? Maybe at some point I would have reached that point of like train of thought too. But like most of the time it's just like, um, like so much had to be sacrificed in order for me to even have the access to the opportunity that I
Hmm.
have right now. So if I don't do the best that I can with it. Um, like I feel like you're letting yourself down, but I mean like everything is for the sake of happiness, right? Like
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
want I don't want this to turn into a thing of like, oh, if you're not doing these crazy things, like then
Hmm.
you should feel bad like for the life that you have lived because of whatever. But I think it's just like taking every actually yeah I think it's more so like taking every opportunity you can to make yourself a happy person for the sake of
Hmm.
your parents, because I'm sure that's all they want to see you be, right? Like I'm like they're not trying to see you become the next Bill Gates or become like the next like um the next like billionaire, multimillionaire. Like they do all this just so that their kids can have a happy life, right? So,
Yeah.
and if that happiness means chasing after like your dreams and blah 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 blah, then yes, you owe it to them to at least give that a try. So yeah.
For sure. No, you are really right. Really right. Like, I just like so much to like the immigrant identity is so
Yeah, so many
like,
emotions.
yeah, I know. And it's like,
uh,
how did this get from just kind of fucking lonely? I don't have a man right now. Like, how did this get from this to like thinking about my
yeah.
family 20 years ago? But no, I think that like what we, I remember I had this conversation with my mom before I left. Like, it was a whole tangent of a lot of things, but we kind of concluded. My mom was like, no, I think that, if like, if we stayed in Bangladesh, maybe you still would have ended up in the same place, moved to San Francisco. And I was like, girl, like, I'm glad you think that highly of me, but like I fully don't
Aw.
feel that. Like I think it was just talking about like success and how, women back home see it. And I think a lot of it are like kind of looked down on it. And I think that like my parents are really happy because they were able to like, have kids that didn't have that limitation. So I think that's been like, a big motivating factor for them to like, you know, feel that this immigrant experience was worthwhile because they know that if I stayed there and if I reached this level of where I am right now so early in my career, my mom was like, yeah, like 100% you would have been so looked down on because, yeah, like even family back home are like, what are you doing? Like, they don't, like me achieving this right now, they don't care. Like, it's literally like not like a thing at all because for them, it's so based on like stuff like marriage or whatever it is, right? Which is crazy because, obviously my parents aren't like that. But I think even if it's like, the way that society is back then. So I think even like, reaching to this, like having the privilege to just be like where we are, like even though like, I prayed so much to live independently. And yes, now I'm crying about it, but like this itself is like not even just my prayers. It's like my parents' prayers and like everything, like so much like changes and like magnitudes of like hard hardships have like kind of led to like me living alone right now. Like my parents had to
Mm,
sacrifice this, go
yeah.
through this, had to break through like cultural barriers, break through like generational barriers too. Of like, for example, like even when my dad, he didn't even fully like when he told his friends who had just sons, they were like they looked down on me because of the fact that I was like a girl living alone and reaching. I was just a very career ambitious person, right? And I think so like I'm so grateful for even stuff like that everything that I do now, I'm just so much more like I just get emotional. Like I was talking about this with like a friend recently too, of like, there's times throughout the day and like, I'd just be like chilling and then I get reminded of something and then I would get reminded of like my family and like my parents and the sacrifices and it'd be like a 2 p.m. Wednesday and I'm just like emotional and like crying or something like that or at work and like it's so weird. But I think that also another tangent to this as well is like, even though that I have come to here and I'm like I think that what we have gone through, like the immigrant identity, all of that, I feel like maybe the guilt or that feeling doesn't exactly just go away. For me, I still
Mm,
struggle with that where I'm like, I don't know. Like I thought that if I reach this level right now, so early in my career, and like reach yeah, just get to where I am, I thought that feeling would go away because I would have made their whole experience worth it. And obviously, these things I didn't do it just because of them. I think that I did it because similar to how you were saying, it's like maximizing the opportunities. Where am I feeling fulfillment and like the lifestyle I wanted to live when I moved out and had that
mm,
autonomy. But for me, I'm like I thought that once I moved, I know it's like kind of oblivious to say, but I was like, okay, that guilt is just gonna go away, because I did. I reached where I wanted to for so long and where my parents wanted me to. But I think it's so underlying. Like I feel like that feeling hasn't exactly gone away of like, why am I here? What am I doing? Am I maximalizing? Am I like making it worth it? I feel like, I mean, I know I am, and I know I'm not looking for the next big thing, but I still feel like I carry those emotions with me that I had for so long. But then, like similar, like, when I talk to you or my friend or whatever it is, it's nice because like, he was just saying like, it's okay if you like feel these things. Like, I think that's normal. But I think one of the things is like, at least you know that you're doing something about it, like even if
Mm.
these emotions, like, I was thinking about this too, like these emotions I'm still carrying with me, but at least I know that objectively I'm still like you mentioned, like making the most out of opportunity, making the most out of all these privileges that we do have from their sacrifices. And I think that's like
Mm.
a way to, even if I get over it and like figure out how I feel with all of that, and maybe those emotions do go away later on, who knows? But it's like at least we are one step towards like the right direction of like making this identity and like creating this. And yeah, I don't know, that was just a tangent I was thinking about.
Yeah, I mean, no, I think like the aspect of like, I mean, it's one like very sweet that your mom thinks that you could have done this even if you started from back home, right? Like
I was like,
that's
girl.
like your number one supporter. But I mean, even what you were saying about like how much it had to like be sacrificed for you to even get to the point that you are, right? Like I always like remember back to one of our conversations. I think 2021, I think 2021 summer when we went to Orchid. Do you remember that
Oh,
restaurant
yeah, yeah, yeah.
downtown? And like I don't know why I remember that conversation so vividly, but like it was like all about like you were essentially talking about like why you think you cannot move, right? Like because like
Mm,
like family this, and you feel like your parents are like wouldn't want you to, or you feel like you have a certain like responsibility and you owe certain
hmm.
things, and like you moving away isn't like a
Wow.
part of like all of that.
Yeah.
And like even you moving, the concept of you moving was like not a like was the big thing. Like it wasn't even like
Mm,
could you make it happen, but it's more so like okay, no, I cannot because of XYZ. And I think we have very similar like I think like whatever I said was probably actually pretty similar because I think it's like related to like your parents. Sure, like they might feel a certain way right now because it seems like foreign or like could seem like
scary.
scary. Yeah, but like at the end of the day, like I think for all of our parents, they just want to see you happy. So like
Hmm.
all that you owe to them is to be happy, is to do what you like. The guilt of like feeling like XYZ, like a big part of it could that be that you don't feel fully like you have like you are fully happy or like in that flow state right now, and you feeling these feelings, and that's the reason why you feel guilty, less of like oh like because I'm not like yeah, the feeling of guilt might not come from very like objective achievement aspects, but like
Hmm.
could be that you feel like oh now I'm here, so like so what, like do I feel that way yet, do I whatever yet, but obviously like that takes time. And I also like another thing is like I think when you're so fixated on a goal, like for you for so long, it was about like finding this job, finding this
Yeah.
job in a city that you want to move to, find like so much of your like your recent year has been fixated on that goal. And when you're very like narrowed in on a goal, it's easy to think of it as an endpoint rather than a starting.
Mm,
Whereas like
you're
really
right.
like you are nowhere near the end. Like this is a start, right? Like this is like by definition a start. It's not about like
That's a good point.
yeah, and like not to say that you have to like okay, I think the way that I'm gonna word the next thing could sound very weird, but like if you think about it, we really haven't achieved anything in our life
Oh
yet,
yeah,
right?
for
Like
sure.
like
100%.
we're doing all of this to set a platform for us to be
Hmm.
able to achieve the things that we want to do in our lives. Like we just graduated university, and anything within university is about learning. You found your first job, you moved to a new city, and all of that, we're still in the phase of learning rather than like achieving. And
Hmm.
like being able to do it in a city that you want to do it in, being able to do it at a company that you want to do it in, is like little things that we should be happy about and be proud of ourselves for like working towards. But if anything, like I think like I was having this conversation with someone else, like another university friend, and I was like to them, like they were saying like, okay, once I graduated, like, you know, I because they worked really hard in university to join a lot of clubs, did a lot of like, you know, a lot of extracurricular, like worked hard in school, XYZ, and that's why we kind of got close together. But then like they were saying like, no, I think like I reached my goal and like this is it. Like, you know, why did I study hard in high school or why did I do like, you know, a
Hmm.
certain program? Like because I want to go into good university, get into a good program. Why do I want to do well in school? Like do internships, do XY, like do extracurriculars, like because I want a good job that I like and I want to be able to move to the city that I want to. And now I'm here. And like, you know, I think I'm happy to settle and like, you know, this is where I am at now. And that's like totally fine too, right? Like, because that is life for a lot of people. And it's just like whatever you feel happy with. But I don't think that's ever been the goal, right? Like, your goal is never
Mm.
like once you move to a new city, once you move and you find independence, like that's all you wanted. And once you get there, then it's like, okay, I want to settle down and like live my
Hmm.
life now. Like, this has always been a beginning. This is like the marking of a
Mm.
beginning. So, um, like,
Well, you're
yeah,
so right. I like
yeah,
didn't even conceptualize it like that. It is the beginning. I
yeah, like
mean,
you're not, you're
yeah.
bro. You still have boxes that are, I know,
Oh
like
my
you know,
God,
unpacked from your bag, like you
that's
know,
my kitchen chair.
that.
I got it right when you texted and it's still unopened.
Oh, your
So no.
kitchen chairs.
Yeah, yeah. So I think
Oh,
it's two
it's
chairs. So it's one for you.
yes, good. It will add to the sense of loneliness if you only have one singular chair in your kitchen as well.
So
But
true, so true. No, but no, that was this has been a good talk. Wait, I like feel a huge weight lifted off my chest. This is like a
yeah,
mini
like
therapy session.
bro, yeah, no, like
Yeah, it's so
I think like
funny.
yeah, thinking about it as a beginning definitely helps because like
Yeah.
nobody
Yeah.
expects you to achieve anything when you're just starting out, right? Like we're baby
Yeah, yeah.
adults.
You
We're
are.
literally
You're right.
baby
Yeah.
adults. You're a 40
Yeah.
year old, not 40-year old, 40 days old taught like child in the scheme of like adulthood.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, exactly.
literally
So
just
true. No, this has
moving.
such been such a good talk. And I think that I mean it's definitely a lot more of like a deeper talk, but I'm glad we did this because like it's a very universal feeling. Like I know that even no matter what level or what gravity we're in, it's still very applicable to like a lot of people, like
Mm,
even for us, like obviously we didn't like live the exact same life, even like family dynamics. Like for example, like, when your mom immigrated, like, she had like, it's just like so many different like like,
yeah.
that like your mom like immigrating alone and like for me just like, my parents. So that's also like a different adds like a whole different element to like so many stuff too. But
Mm,
I'm still glad we got to like relate on this. And I feel like, we were saying that when we do look at ourselves in the future, like I am really interested to see how we are in 10 years dealing with this topic because I think that this has been something that we talk about like all the time and like we
mm,
have been a lot for the past 5 years. Like, I
mm,
feel like when we were young, this has always been an underlying thing subconsciously that we weren't able to fully articulate, right? So it, in a
mm,
way, be manifested in like other stuff we did. Like when we were young, why were we such hyperachievers? But now that we're older, it makes so much sense why we did the things that we did. Maybe back in like junior high, high school, and like I think in university is when we started becoming so aware of like what we're doing. Like
mm,
I feel like
yeah.
we've just like reached a level of consciousness of the actions that we do and like emotions of other people, like our parents, seeing them at such a different lens. So that's why I'm like, even within these past 5 years, we've had like such big growth phases that's why I'm like really interested to see us tackling on the same topic in like 5 years
Mm,
because I
yeah.
feel like we already peeled so many layers, but this is nothing. I still feel like it's nothing because I think this month alone, like I was telling Camille this on our walk today with Etienne that I feel that for so long I've been like, I think I along with a lot of my other friends see me as someone who's like very similar to you, like, very in what's it introspective, very deep with like a lot of things that we do and like we do see the deeper meaning and we're not a surface level person at all, like we'll always see the nuances to everything. But I think one thing that I was lacking for so long is the emotional side. And I think that if like it's becoming so unlocked through this move and like feeling connected to my family more and more. I think that be going through these struggles and connecting to my parents at such a deeper level has made me so emotional that in a sense that I have like I feel like another layer of that onion like peeling where I'm like
Mm,
holy shit, like I can't believe like like I know that I loved being like, someone that saw everything very abstractly and saw everything with a lot of nuances, but there was one thing that was lacking me and holding me back from, I think, reaching a next level. And for me,
Mm,
that was emotions, because now that like I feel so much and I think about so much, and like even though before I think about a lot and like, even though I would feel it, now I'm like physically feeling it, or now I'm like, yeah, I'm just like an emotional person. And I think that I'm like, it took me a while to get to here and I still think I'm
mm,
navigating it, but I'm really glad I am, because I think that that has led me to, like, when I tell, like, when I talked about like the consciousness that we had, like the consciousness awakening we had after like high school, then we get into this new phase of our life. I feel like
mm,
I'm also feeling this new consciousness waking up, that's like so many stuff as that is at such a different complexity, because of like how emotional I felt. Like even like other stuff too, I was thinking about, like, because me feeling lonely, I've been reflecting a lot about like my childhood and seeing like my parents dealing with that at such higher scales. I knew that was like
mm,
been a problem for so long, and then you go into other mental stuff like depression and whatever, right? And like why I am that type of like person that does talk a lot, because I think I didn't want them, like I think I've become more like, I've always been a very talkative, yapper, curious person, because I didn't want that loneliness to like kind of undercurrent the life that we were living. So it's like,
mm,
yeah, it's like so many different things, but
mm, mm.
yeah, a very heavy week the past couple of
Yeah,
weeks. But no, I'm
yes.
glad that I have someone like you who is very open to like raw conversations. Like when we talked about this week, where I was like, okay, I'm like feeling this way, and like it's really good
Mm,
to hear that you also like really understood where I was coming from, because I was like, wait, like I'm not like this typically, but I feel like
mm,
I have been.
yeah,
So it's
yeah.
like I'm trying to navigate it, and like hopefully, yeah, like hopefully you figure it out. Like you're able to like also figure it out with me as well, even though I'm not even fully able to articulate what I'm going through.
Mm,
So no, that's been like really nice support too.
yeah. Yeah, I think bring like that next level that you're talking about, it's like very interesting because like thinking back, right? Like yeah, you have always been like, someone that's not afraid to talk about feelings, and we've always had like conversations about emotions and feelings, and like, even our other friends when they go through certain things. But like I do always see you more as like a like you've always been very understanding, and you've always been there, and like you try to be empathetic, and you obviously try to be there. But I do notice that there is like a layer of like, a lot of those feelings. I think maybe like you either don't allow yourself to feel it back then, or
Hmm.
like couldn't fully be empathetic. Not in the sense that like you're not trying to empathetic and understand. Like it's just more so like maybe you have never felt that intensity. You've never allowed yourself to feel that level of intensity. So certain
Yeah.
things seem like okay, like I I recognize this, and like I can like have this conversation with you, but this is not a feeling that I was able to feel, or like that's
Hmm.
how I see a lot of maybe like the role that you have played in our friend groups, or like when people are going through things, and like and now like I do really see that it's like a very different like side that you're like exploring, right? Like and I mean like a lot of things are changing, and I think even when we talk, right, like I think you were always a very like yeah hyper independent tough love person of like you want to hear like the raw things, but like even that, right, like now you feel certain like different ways, then like you're gonna want to hear different things, and like that's so too like completely like valid too. And like I think like it's like I make this comparison. I think I made this comparison before because I think like Alex and you maybe like before was actually pretty similar, and like I
Hmm.
was always on the more emotional side, and like we actually always had this um talk, and like I was actually talking to him about this where I was like okay, like bro, like I was being like an Alex and you were Helen, like the way that I approached the problem with you this week was
Oh,
very
okay.
much like how he would approach a problem with me.
Mm.
We always have like small arguments about this, and like he knows that that is not the right way, and like
Mm.
he knows that like it makes me feel a certain way, but like but that at the end of the day, we always like obviously come around to it, and we talk and we have a good
Yeah, yeah.
conversation. It's like hey, like I know what you're trying to do, and I know you care about me, and you are only saying these things and doing these things because you care about me, but like at that moment I rather have heard it in this like conveyed in this tone, or like I rather that you had this conversation with me in this way
Hmm.
than like pushing me in the other way, because I feel like at that time like yeah, so we are a couple. It's just a chain reaction of couples. Yeah, I
I
mean yeah,
know.
I think this is like a interesting journey for you to explore,
It
right? Like
is. And you
I
too,
think
I think, you're also navigating like something that you feel like you're lacking, and you're understanding too like the whole community side. So it's been interesting too, because I think that we talked about this where like externally people see you as very social and outgoing, and like even sometimes I'm like, oh my God, you have like coworkers here I met, it's nice to have la la la. But then you like tell me like no, like that's not the reality of how life is, of like finding that community. So I'm
yeah.
also, it's a
Or
journey
maybe
for us
I
both.
am just an introvert, you know? I don't know.
Huh? We're
Like
what, sir?
maybe I'm also like more introverted than I thought. Like,
Mm,
there's also like layers of like
yeah.
maybe I think like I'm extroverted, but I only gain that energy from like hanging out like this, right? Like having these
Yeah.
conversations. And even as a kid too, I realized like I always like the one-on-one friends more than going to a big
Mm,
party or whatever. Like that part is more so to fulfill like a general like, in a way
hmm
like general societal like expectation, right? Like I want to be seen as someone that's very social. I want to be seen as someone that has
mm,
many friends. But like when I'm at those like events, obviously there's like ones where like I feel happy, I feel grounded, like when during your like your civil parties or like your
hmm
board game nights, those are fun. But I think whenever I do feel the most like, yeah, now I mean now I reflect about this, like even when I had access to community, like a bigger group of people, like I never felt like I gained the most energy when it's like a big group. It's always been like late
mm.
night talks, like three or four of us max, or like
Yeah,
like
I see
sit
what
on
you
the
mean.
couch, like just yapping, or like one-on-one talks at a cafe, right? So maybe that's
Yeah.
also like I feel like yeah, I don't know. I think that's something I need to figure out too.
hmm
Like what kind of social interaction I value, and like
Yeah,
now that
yeah.
I'm older, like I should feel less of a I mean I have felt way less of a requirement of like, okay, I should do exercise, like I should go to these things, I should put myself out there, post these
hmm
stories to make myself seem like I'm having fun, or like
Yeah.
to be a certain way. So yeah,
hmm
yeah, I guess to bring it all like back together, I'm like very happy that we had this conversation too. I think it's
Yeah, me
always
too.
like, especially talking about like the immigrant thing and like parent thing, I think that grounds like a lot of what we do, and that like brings
hmm
us back to reality a lot. Because like, yeah, when you feel lonely, when you spend time alone, when you don't have a lot of things to ground you nearby because you're in a new environment, it's easy to start like just letting your brain take control of everything,
hmm
like your overthinking take control of everything else. And I don't think that's like, and that gets very hard to deal with, right? But I
Yeah,
think
exactly.
talk
And I
about
think it's interesting because like for us, like even though yeah, like we do live alone, both of us in studios, but we're like big overthinkers. Like how are how are people like who are living alone in whatever, right? Like who are not overthinkers? Like I'm interested to see what goes on in their day to day because
Bro,
sometimes
I
I'm
don't
like,
even know if
I
I'm over
can't.
it. No, it's bad because like I mean this is a problem I need to fix, but like my resolution to like overthinking is rotting. It's just like,
Mm,
consuming an abundance of media, and it's like
yeah,
just bad, right? Like I think I think I need to do something about it.
yeah,
Well,
that's true.
not
I
today.
feel you.
We'll do
Yeah,
something.
not today, but no,
That's
this was
that's
such a good
that's the
talk.
purpose session
It was
of
so
like
raw. And like, yeah, I feel like we can always go on and on about the immigrant experience. There's just so many levels to it. And like, yeah, no, it's been a very transformative year, I would say. Like, and it's so crazy because I think it just started literally from like this year when fucking when life gives you tangerines. This fucking
uh,
started airing, and then I think that like opened up a whole new world for me that has been like trickling down ever since. So I don't know.
yeah.
We'll see. But it's okay. Now that that's out, let's hopefully the next few weeks are a bit more less, just less thinking and more
Hey,
just
no, no. Why would we? This is the time to think. We don't have to make it less thinking.
that's true, that's true. But oh my God, we were also saying how much we need this podcast. Like literally this week I
Yeah.
was fucking scootering to work and like in my mind, because like I'm not listening to music when I'm scootering or doing anything. So all
Wait,
I have is like, huh?
how, why don't you listen to music while you're
Oh,
scooting?
just because of like safety. Like how like the
Being
streets are.
aware of it.
Yeah, yeah, like
Yeah.
I want to be aware. I don't want to be like just la 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 then like pew. So that's
Fair
why.
enough.
And I think it's because like some bike lanes are nice, but some of them are like literally with the cars, like where they're like bike and emergency car, and like people don't fucking use that shit as emergency. So it'd be like normal vehicles using that car. So, anyways, so then, like during my scooter rides or when I have like free time and I'm like thinking about stuff, I'm like, oh my God, I just want to talk about this with Helen and like, make this the new episode of our podcast or whatever, right? And there's like so many tangents. Like this wasn't even going to be the main topic that I was thinking about. Like I think in the beginning of last week or the beginning of this week, I was thinking about like, oh my God, I wanted to talk about, going back to like my roots and like having like, because I think the Bangladesh identity is a one where I think that it's constantly being overshadowed by the rest of South Asia. Like, I think for so long people are like, oh, you're from Bangladesh. What is that? Oh, is that like near India or is that Pakistani? And I think
Mm,
that we're not of the most nationalistic people. So because of that, for so long, my identity has kind of been like overshadowed by the rest of South Asia, while like
mm,
identities like Pakistani or Indian, they're very strong. So for me, I feel like I was always okay with that growing up, but now I'm like, wait, I do want to find more autonomy in like my individual nationality because like our ancestors fought so much for this. So anyways, that's a
that
whole
is
tangent of
crazy.
thoughts we'll save for next
'Cause
month,
every
month
brown
or
girl
next.
I've been friends with in my life at this
Or,
point have been Bengali, bro. Like, what do you
you, for
mean
some reason, attract.
underrepresented? Like, what do you mean, man? Like,
Actually, you just attract Bengalis for
yeah,
some
I
reason.
know. Like, I don't know how, bro. We make so many jokes, even with Samar. It's like
Yeah,
one of our other. I mean, like, I mean, you should beep up her name, so I
yeah.
don't actually accidentally talk about her name if she doesn't want to be talked about. But yeah, there was a joke where like someone was like completely not in a racist way, I think, or not intended. It's like, oh, do you want to try this like curry that I made? And then she was like, or he was like, I really want you to try this chicken curry that I made. And then she was
Yeah.
like, you know that I'm not Indian, right? And he was like, oh, sure, like something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
We
no,
made
that's not racist at all because I think that no, that is like okay, wait, that's such a true thing. I was talking about this today with like a few new people I met today at that gathering where I was like, even our cuisine is so different. Like I never go into an Indian or Pakistani restaurant and I'm like, this is Bengali food. Like it is not
yeah,
the same at all,
bro.
you
And
know?
Bengali food is bussin', bro. I think
It is good.
Rhea, yeah, I think I ate some at Rhea's place, but then when my friends, like her mom visited, like we started this kind of tradition, which is kind of cute, whenever one of our parents visits, like they'll host a dinner and they'll cook like
Aw.
homemade meals for everyone because like we don't eat homemade meals and I'm the best chef out of our friend group and I feel like I'm not even
You
that
are a
great
good
of a chef
chef.
but like they're like struggling out here, bro. Like I see them eating, they're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna have a sandwich for lunch. It's two pieces of bread and a slice of cheese in the middle, and that's what called sandwich. Oh
Oh
man,
my.
yeah,
That's not even like a cheese sandwich. Like there's not even like
there's
a meat.
nothing, yeah. So it's
Yeah.
like yeah, but her mom made like a 10 course Bengali meal for
Oh,
us,
I
and it was
saw.
so
Yeah, that's
good, bro.
crazy.
I
Yeah.
love Bengali foods. I'm
No, you're literally
expecting
Bengali.
this is this is my way of telling you like yo make sure like yo this Christmas we also gotta start planning for what we want to do when we're back.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, that's true. Although that'll be fun.
skiing.
But yeah, I'm
We're
excited.
going
Wait, in the
skiing.
next week, what?
Or we can go skiing, or we can do another trip where we go to Lake Louise and then we skate on the lake. I've
Oh,
never
wait,
done that.
I've never done. Okay, I'm down for that. I'm down.
Yeah.
Wait, I'm excited. Like, bro, I need
I'm kind
snow. I
of I'm
can't.
happy that you guys are going back as tourists now too, because now like
Mm,
not tourists, but like you're going back as someone visiting. Because for the longest time, whenever I visit, I feel like I need to like drag you guys, or I feel
mm.
bad because I'm like you have to do semi touristy activities while you're technically just living your day to day. But now
Yeah, yeah, makes
you
sense.
can
No, it's gonna be
feel
fun,
like
and like
familiar.
everyone else is gonna be there too. I think like Fatima, Camilla, people they're coming around the same time as me, staying for the same time. So it's
Yeah.
gonna be nice to like it's
Did you
like
buy
I
your
feel like
ticket?
I did, bro. That shit was bad. It was
Okay,
like
when is it? When are you going back?
I'm going back the like December 17th to January 6th. So I'm
Oh,
there for a
okay.
while. But like
Yeah.
I'm working remote. I didn't take any days off. So I don't know. Maybe I will. I'll see.
Yeah, I'm going back December 18th to January 2nd. So,
Oh,
like,
okay. So a bit shorter.
yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
Nice.
Nice. So no,
Fantastic.
I'm so nice. Christmas
Nordic
time.
Spa?
Yes,
We'll
dude,
see how,
100%. And bro,
we'll
I'm
see
not
how-
gonna pay anything for like no groceries, like taken out. Like it's literally money, so I'm gonna be saving and then I'm gonna convert that shit. Like life is gonna be
yeah.
good.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah, so I'm excited for that. But my ticket was, well, I guess I can't complain because in comparison, because I have a friend, like the new friend I made, she goes back to Toronto and she's like, oh, averagely I spend like 500 like USD. And I'm like, girl, bye, I
Bro,
can't.
you not. I mean, 500 is like nothing, bro. Or in comparison, like my Toronto friends here, like when they go back to Toronto, uh, like I think my friend was like spending on average $800 per ticket every time he goes
Yeah,
back to Toronto, like eight to
that's
nine hundred.
crazy.
Like
That's
cheap is five
crazy.
hundred. 500 is considered lowest end you can get. Yeah,
Yeah,
how much
I
did you
know.
get your Calgary ticket for? I'm curious.
Well, okay, mine I had to like I think Camilla and like Fatima and them got it for a bit more because like for me I'm doing it where half the day I'm gone I think so it's like I
Mm.
had to like take time not take off like coordinate my work schedule so it's like in the middle of the day so because of that like I really like made it as cheap as possible so mine was like I think 400 USD which
Oh,
isn't
that's
bad
still quite a lot. I mean, yeah,
like it is a
I
lot but
guess
like
for
in
like
comparison
SF, because SF to
yeah
Calgary usually is like direct and usually not that
exactly
expensive. But yeah,
yeah
but
and
still
like
not like crazy. Yeah.
yeah, like even for them, I think because like if I did want to go after work or like do like a weekend one, right? Because I did want to go in that weekend, but I think that one was like minimum like 500
Oh,
USD, and I was like,
yeah.
okay, like
Yeah.
what? Wait, how about you? How was yours?
Yo, like props to you for even trying. Like, I straight up like if it wasn't the specific dates I was good, I'm not looking at it. Like
Uh,
I look at the calendar. I'm like, I'm picking the lowest, like the cheapest ticket I can
mm,
possibly do. Because if I try to maximize, like optimize it for the weekend or some shit like that, it's gonna be like
yeah, it's
default
too.
over $500. Yeah, I found one from Houston, um, like flying out of Houston, and it's like 260 USD. So it's not bad at all.
Wow,
It's
that's
not,
nice. What
yeah,
the heck? That's
yeah,
good.
but it's Houston, so I have to drive like 3 hours out first
Uh,
and then take the flight. But it's at least direct from Houston. I
okay,
mean,
okay.
like last time I flew back, it was a 12-hour flight. I
Yeah,
flew 4 hours to Toronto, laid over for 4 hours, and then flew
fuck.
4 hours back to Calgary. So I'm like, I'm not doing that shit
That's
again, man.
Yeah, that's reducing your quality of life by so much. It's so bad.
Yeah.
No, there was even some flights too. I saw that was like, oh yeah, you go to Alaska, stay for 5 hours. I was like, what the fuck am I gonna do in Alaska, bro? I'm gonna go crazy.
Yeah. No,
So
even when I did SF last time, I was like, bro, I don't know why, like, I don't know why I live like this sometimes, but when I flew, like last year I flew from SF to Calgary, but to find a cheaper ticket, I went from SF to Utah, stayed there for four
oh
hours, and
yeah,
then flew to Calgary. And then like,
oh,
some days I'm just like, even my mom was like, bro, like stop doing this shit.
I
Like,
know.
when I
It's
flew to
actually reducing our quality. Like we are
when
gonna
I
die. It's gonna fucking take a few years out of our lives, bro.
yeah.
Like that's crazy, but it's okay. Hopefully we navigate. I know. I think also it's because I bought my ticket a bit later when I could have done it. Because like I think my mom, like my family friend who lives in LA, he was like telling my parent, like just his mom and everything. I'll like go buy your tickets earlier because December is rough. And then like I just started. And then I was like, ah, I don't want to like,
Actually,
yeah. But it's okay in the
I
future.
haven't bought my ticket yet because wait, cut this part out. But yeah, I just asked my parents or my grandparents like, oh, is it okay if I bring Alex back? So I gotta like
Oh,
hear
okay.
what they say first. But like, there's no, it's not okay at this point.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Makes sense. No, no, it's okay. But yeah, anyways, I have to go back to work. Yeah, it's okay. Tomorrow's my last, like, I'll be chill after. So maybe I'll be happier then.
I really have to work, but I just decided while we're talking that I'm gonna go to sleep and wake up at 5 a.m. and do it because I'm
Nice,
not.
nice. Well, it is
I'm
like late. It's like 9:15 for you guys. Right, is it
well,
9:15?
I'm 9:15. Yeah, but I'm
Okay,
just
okay, okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
I've like any time in my life with
Yeah.
school, whatever. I've always been a let me just wake up early rather than let me go to sleep late.
I feel
Uh,
you, bro. But it's okay. This was a good talk. And yeah, no, I'm excited for next week's. And
yeah, I hope
okay.
we also get 100 views this week. Let's
Wait,
go.
I was like,
I
who
don't
is
know
the
who's watching.
136? I don't know, but if you
Yeah,
are, thank you. But yeah,
yeah.
okay. Take care, Helen. Bye.